There are breakfast foods that defined Canadian childhoods for 3 decades. Foods that every kid begged their parents to buy. Foods that Saturday mornings revolved around. Foods that tasted like pure sugar and happiness. And every single one of them has been discontinued, reformulated beyond recognition, or quietly removed from shelves while we weren't paying attention. If you grew up in Canada between 1960 and 1999, at least 5 of these breakfast foods were in your kitchen. And if you're over 35, hearing these names will hit you with nostalgia so hard you'll remember exactly what your childhood kitchen smelled like on Saturday morning. Here are 15 breakfast foods that made Canadian mornings legendary and then disappeared forever. 1. Kellogg's O'K's cereal, the cereal that was too delicious to survive. Remember those crunchy O's and K's that turned your milk into liquid gold? O'K's cereal was what you ate when your parents said no to Sugar Crisp. Each piece was a letter, O or K, covered in what tasted like pure caramel coating. The milk afterward was basically dessert. Health Canada started cracking down on sugar content in the early 90s. O'K's had 12 grams of sugar per serving, not even the worst offender, but Kellogg's killed it anyway. They claimed declining sales, but really, the reformulated low-sugar version tasted like cardboard and nobody bought it. The original recipe was too good to survive the health food panic. That caramel sweet coating was chemically engineered perfection. Kids would eat 3 bowls and their teeth would hurt. Parents hated buying it, which made it even better. Post Sugar Crisp with Sugar Bear, before they ruined it. Sugar Crisp used to be Sugar Crisp, not Golden Crisp like the watered-down garbage they sell now. The original Canadian version had Sugar Bear on the box, doing absolutely nothing educational, just vibing and promising you'd be hyper for 6 hours. In 1985, activists pressured Post to reduce sugar content and rename it. The original formulation had 14 grams of sugar per serving and tasted like eating honey straight from the jar. The new Golden Crisp has 9 grams and tastes like sad nostalgia. You could pour it straight into your mouth as a snack. The pieces were rock hard and required jaw strength, and the milk afterward tasted like liquid candy. Kids in the 70s and 80s ran on Sugar Crisp and Sunny Delight. It's a miracle we survived. 3. Quaker Oats Instant Oatmeal Dinosaur Eggs. The only oatmeal kids actually ate. This was genius marketing. Boring oatmeal with candy eggs that hatched into chewy dinosaurs when you added hot water. The oatmeal was maple and brown sugar flavored, already good, but watching those eggs dissolve and reveal tiny dinosaurs made breakfast feel like a science experiment. Quaker discontinued it in the late 90s, probably because parents realized their kids were eating candy for breakfast disguised as healthy oatmeal. The dinosaur pieces were pure sugar and food coloring, nutritionally worthless, culturally priceless. You'd fight your siblings over who got the last packet. And you'd strategically eat around the dinosaurs to save them for last, because even at age 7, you understood delayed gratification when candy was involved. 4. French Toast Crunch, the cereal that tasted like real French toast. Tiny little pieces shaped like miniature French toast slices, coated in cinnamon sugar and somehow tasting like actual syrup. This wasn't trying to be healthy. This was General Mills admitting, yeah, we made dessert for breakfast. Deal with it. General Mills pulled it from Canadian shelves in 2006, citing poor sales. This was a lie. The internet revolted. Petitions circulated. Americans still had it, which felt like betrayal. It came back in 2014, but the formula was different. Less cinnamon, less magic. The texture was perfect, crunchy but not sharp, sweet but not overwhelming. And unlike most cereals that turn to mush and milk, French Toast Crunch held up. You could take your time, though you never did because it was too good to eat slowly. 5. Carnation Instant Breakfast Bars. The healthy breakfast. That was basically candy. Your mom bought these, thinking they were nutritious because the box said instant breakfast and showed a glass of milk. Really, they were chocolate-covered granola bars with the structural integrity of chalk. They'd crumble if you looked at them wrong. and they were absolutely delicious. Carnation got bought by Nestlé, who decided breakfast bars weren't profitable enough compared to liquid instant breakfast. The bars vanished in the late 90s with zero warning. One day they were on shelves. Next day, they were memory. You could eat one in the car on the way to school, and your mom felt good about feeding you nutrition. You felt good about eating chocolate before 8 a.m. Everyone won, except your teeth. 6. Eggo waffles, home style, before they went healthy. The original Eggo waffles from the 60s through early 90s were basically yellow sponge cakes that tasted like butter and vanilla. They weren't whole grain, they weren't fiber enriched, they were refined white flour and sugar, and they were incredible. Kellogg's acquired Eggo and immediately started improving the recipe with whole grain versions, reduced sodium, and various health-conscious modifications that made them taste like cardboard with grid marks. You could eat them frozen as a snack. You could toast them until they were crunchy. You could microwave them until they were soft. Versatility. And they tasted good no matter what. The new formula tastes like trying too hard to be healthy. 7. Alpha Bits with marshmallows. Regular Alpha Bits. But make it fun. Alpha Bits were already great. Alphabet cereal that made you feel educational while eating sugar. Then Post added marshmallows and turned it into Lucky Charms' Canadian cousin. The marshmallows were harder than Lucky Charms marshmallows, lasted longer in milk, which was important. Post killed the marshmallow version in the late 90s, claiming it was temporary promotional flavor. It wasn't temporary. Kids loved it. But apparently, teaching the alphabet through sugar and marshmallows sent the wrong message. You could spell swear words in your cereal bowl, and your parents couldn't get mad because you were practicing spelling. Strategic brilliance. 8. Kellogg's S'mored cereal. S'mores for breakfast. Obviously, this was graham cracker pieces, chocolate pieces, and marshmallow pieces in one cereal. It tasted exactly like s'mores and had absolutely no nutritional value. Kellogg's marketed it aggressively to kids, and parents hated it immediately. It was too honest about being candy. There was no pretense of part of a balanced breakfast. It was pure indulgence. Kellogg's discontinued it after just 4 years, probably because the backlash from nutritionists was too intense. It delivered on the promise. Most cereals that claim to taste like dessert are lying. S'mores actually tasted like s'mores, perfect replication, which is probably why it had to die. 9. Crispy Critters, cereal munches. The animal crackers of cereal. These were animal-shaped pieces that tasted like Frosted Flakes, but better. Each piece was a different animal. Lions, elephants, bears, and they were coated in a sweet glaze that made the milk taste like vanilla sugar. It didn't, but you'd argue anyway. Bowl 10, instant cream of wheat. 4, they made it heart-healthy. The original cream of wheat from the 60s and 70s was thick, creamy, and tasted like butter and salt because that's mostly what it was. Then, in the 90s, they reformulated it to be heart-healthy with reduced sodium and added fiber, which made it taste like wallpaper paste. Health Canada's sodium guidelines forced reformulation. The original had 270 milligrams sodium per serving. The new version has 130 milligrams and tastes 50% worse. Science can't explain why reducing sodium by 140 milligrams ruins flavor this badly, but it does. Your grandmother made it on cold mornings with butter melting on top and brown sugar mixed in. The new version doesn't hold butter properly, and the texture is wrong. Nostalgia isn't just taste, it's chemistry. 11. Pop-Tarts, frosted chocolate chip, thicker, sweeter, better. Pop-Tarts still exist, obviously, but the original frosted chocolate chip from the 70s and 80s had thicker frosting, more filling, and chocolate chips that were actually chocolate instead of chocolate-flavored sadness. Kellogg's gradually reduced filling quantity and frosting thickness over decades to cut costs while keeping the same price. The box looks the same. The product inside has been hollowed out economically. Classic corporate move. You could eat them cold, toasted, or frozen. The chocolate chips would melt when toasted, creating pockets of molten chocolate. The current version has fewer chips, and they don't melt right. It's still good. It's not the same. 12. Red River cereal, the breakfast that built Canada. Red River cereal was, and technically still is, a hot cereal made from cracked wheat, bran, and flax. But the original version from the 1960s through 1980s was stone ground and had a texture and flavor that modern versions can't replicate. The company switched from stone grinding to steel roller milling in the 1990s to increase production efficiency. Faster production, lower costs, slightly different texture. Old-timers will tell you it's not the same. They're right. This was serious breakfast. Working-class Canadian families ate Red River because it was cheap, filling, and would keep you full until lunch. You'd add butter and brown sugar. Your dad would add nothing and eat it like a psychopath. Character-building food. Honeycomb cereal. Before they shrunk them, honeycomb used to have pieces the size of actual honeycombs, huge hexagonal puffs that were so big you could barely fit them in your mouth. Then Post shrunk them in the 90s and ruined everything. Post claimed the smaller size improved milk absorption. Translation: smaller pieces means less cereal per box, but the box stays the same size so they make more money. Corporate efficiency. Those giant pieces were a choking hazard, and nobody cared. You'd shove them in your mouth whole and crunch. The satisfaction was primal. The mini version is fine, but it's not the same as eating cereal that required jaw dislocation. 14. Nabisco Shreddies. Before they went thin and crispy, Shreddies still exist, but they're not the same. The original Shreddies from the 60s through 80s were thicker, denser, and took longer to get soggy. They had structural integrity. The modern version disintegrates if you look at it wrong. Post, who bought Nabisco's cereal division, reformulated Shreddies in the 1990s to make them lighter and crispier, which means thinner and cheaper to produce. They literally used less wheat per piece. You're eating air gaps. You could eat a bowl and actually feel full. The new ones are so light, you need 2 bowls to get the same satisfaction, which is exactly what they want. More cereal sales. Aunt Jemima pancake mix-ins. Before the rebrand changed everything, yes. They changed the name to Pearl Milling Company for obvious reasons, but they also changed the formula. The original Aunt Jemima mix from the 60s through 2000s was fluffier, sweeter, and more reliably produced perfect pancakes. Beyond the name change, they modified the formula in the 2010 set to reduce sodium and trans fats. The pancakes are healthier now. They're also flatter, less fluffy, and require more careful measurement to get right. The old formula was foolproof. The new one requires skill. Your mom could make perfect pancakes half asleep on Saturday morning because the formula was engineered for parental autopilot. The pancakes were thick, fluffy, and tasted sweet without adding sugar. Modern pancake mix requires attention and effort, which defeats the purpose of convenient pancake mix. Here's the pattern you've probably noticed. Every discontinued or reformulated breakfast food from this era followed the same trajectory. It started as pure, shameless indulgence. Then health regulations tightened. Then companies reformulated to meet new standards. Then the magic disappeared. The 60s through 90s was the golden age of breakfast can-be dessert. Food companies weren't pretending their products were healthy. Sugar Crisp admitted it was sugar. O's didn't claim to be nutritious. Everyone understood the deal. Then the health panic hit. Sugar content mattered. Sodium became a villain, trans fats were deadly. And every breakfast food had to justify its existence nutritionally or die. The result, we lost the honest junk food and got reformulated versions that pretend to be better for you while tasting worse. Or we lost them entirely because companies decided they couldn't market sugar cereal to kids anymore. But here's what nobody admits. Those discontinued breakfast foods weren't poison. They were treats. The problem was never the food. It was eating them every single day, But instead of teaching moderation, we banned the good stuff and replaced it with things that taste like compromises. If you remember eating 5 or more of these breakfast foods, you lived through the last era when breakfast was allowed to be fun. The foods are gone, the memories aren't, and every time you eat modern cereal and think this used to taste better, you're not imagining it. It did taste better. They changed it, and they're never bringing it back.